Hello, today we'll be presenting Faldgrube 1-3, and our group consists of Joshua, Aya, Smilla, og Frederik. The first faldgruppe is kulturspecifikke elementer. These can be defined as elements that are specific for the source culture and not necessarily known in the target culture. This can be places, people, holidays or festivals, tradition, brand names, and a lot more. Jan Pedersen, cited in Øvre Rås, distinguishes between three different types of kulturspecifikke elementer: transcultural, monocultural, and infracultural. Transcultural can be defined as elements known by most people across cultures. Examples of this could be that or TV. Monocultural is known by people in a specific culture, as in Denmark. Elements in this group could be Livgarden or Kai Andrea. While infracultural is known by people in a smaller cultural group, and elements here could be crosshair, as in gaming culture, or bassen among Engerom students. When translating kulturspecifikke elementer, the trap is translating them in a way which the target audience does not understand. Therefore, the function of the kulturspecifikke elementer are important to consider when choosing the microstrategies. To avoid this faldgruppe, you should consider who your target audience is and in which context it appears in. Also, research the different connotations and denotations of the element in question. An example of a kulturspecifikt element could be the phrase, han købte en kajkage. You can translate this using different microstrategies, getting different results. Using direct transfer, you'd get, he bought a kajkage. Using explicitation, you'd get, he bought a cake resembling the frog Kai from a Danish children's show. Using oblique translation, you'd get, he bought a pastry. Using adaptation, you'd get, he bought a piece of apple pie. Or using calque, you'd get, he bought a cake. Obviously, the calque results in an entirely wrong translation. Direct transfer retains the element but would cause confusion. Explicitations explains the element and keeps the reference, but could be a bit too long. Adaptation could be good for a children's book, but could be too foreignizing for other types of literature. Another example could be the cake spotted dick. Using explicitation to translate this, you would say, en kage som indeholder tørrede frugter, eller en britisk dessert. Using adaptation, you would get lavkage, or using oblique translation, you would say frugtkage. The second faldgruppe is faste udtryk, also known as idioms. These are language specific. By falling into this faldgruppe, you run the risk of translating into an entirely unidiomatic translation. It is instead advised to use an oblique translation microstrategy to transfer the sense and meaning of the idiom rather than translating it word for word. A few examples could be the saying først til mølle. In this example, there is an idiom in the target language with the same meaning which would be appropriate for the translation, and that is the oblique translation saying first come, first serve, which is idiomatic. Using the wrong strategy, using direct translation, you would get first to the mill, which results in an entirely unidiomatic translation. Another example could be saying he had a black eye. In this example, there is an idiom in the target language that is similar but not quite the same, and that is why an oblique translation will result in a correct translation. Using direct translation, you would say, han havde et sort øje, which is unidiomatic. And to get the correct result, you would use oblique translation, resulting in saying, han havde et blåt øje. A third example could be the saying, enjoy your food. In this example, there is a more idiomatic phrase in the target language. The literal meaning is not as important as creating an idiomatic translation. Using direct translation, you would say, nyd din mad, which is idiomatic, but the standard saying is velbekomme, which you would get by using oblique translation, as velbekomme is the standard saying in Denmark. Example 4 is a guilty pleasure, and here you have to consider the target audience when choosing an appropriate microstrategy. Using direct translation, you would get skyldig nydelse, which is unidiomatic, and it is sort of impossible to translate this as there is no corresponding idiom in the target language. However, guilty pleasure is slowly transitioning into the Danish language, but you have to take the target audience into consideration to know if they would understand the purpose of the idiom. The third faldgrube is falske venner. These are words that look similar in both English and Danish. Falske venner are often the type of error a translator will make, as you think you know the word, but in reality it is a falsk ven. As even though the words look alike, the literal meaning can be significantly different. Words such as sky in English and sky in Danish look the same but have different meanings. An example using this word sky could be the sky is blue. You can translate this by using the microstrategy direct translation, resulting in skyen er blå, which is the wrong translation. Or you could use oblique translation, resulting in himlen er blå, which is the correct translation. Another example of this could be the saying, the fabric was soft, and translating this using calc would result in fabrikken var blød, which is very wrong. But you could rather use oblique translation and you would get stoffet var blødt, which is the correct translation. And the reason that you can make this error is because fabric looks very similar to the Danish word fabrik, but the meaning is not the same. The context will often expose the meaning, however, this is not always the case. Therefore, the best way to avoid Faldgrube 3 is by looking up words in the dictionary if you are in doubt, and using microstrategies such as oblique translation or addition. To summarize, today we have gone through Faldgrube 1, kulturspecifikke elementer, Faldgrube 2, faste udtryk, og Faldgrube 3, falske venner. In summary, we have taken a look at Faldgrube 1-3. Faldgrube 1 deals with cultural specific elements that may be tricky to translate, but can be solved with a use of direct transfer or oblique translation. Although the most important thing to remember is whether you know the essential meaning of the sentence you're translating or not. If you don't know the meaning, you should probably read the sentence again and maybe look up some words. In Faldgrube 2, a good microstrategy to consider is the oblique translation microstrategy in order to maintain idiomaticity. And finally, in Faldgrube 3, a good strategy to avoid falske venner is to check a dictionary to make sure that the meaning is equivalent in both languages. And a couple of short tips is to use a dictionary whenever you have the slightest doubt. Even though you think you know what it means, maybe you don't. And then you should also consider the audience and the context. So who are you translating? Is it a 6-year-old or a 76-year-old? And as a final remark, if in doubt, look it up. Thank you very much. That is all for today, and have a nice day.